President Rilak invites herself onto Discovery's mission. President Tarina finds Saru to be a comforting presence. And Commander Bryce, we hardly knew ye. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Seventh Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Hello, hello.
We have two very special guests joining us today, Dr. Susan V. Gruner and Eve England out in a place far away. My name is Ryan T. Husk, and I'm right here. We're doing a review of Discovery Season 4, Episode 10, entitled The Great Barrier. How you guys doing?
Yeah, great, thanks.
Doing good.
All right. So first things first, this picture behind me, I feel like this episode, when I think about this episode, I think of these two on this planet. I feel like that was the thing that stood out to me the most. But Sue and Eve, what stood out to you the most? I mean, because this is the one where we really hear Tarka's story. What stood out to you guys?
You want me to start?
Yeah.
Did you guys catch the reference to Gilligan's Island?
Yes. A 3-hour tour. Yeah.
The 3-hour tour. I thought that was hilarious.
That was almost chosen as a trivioid. That was very close to one of my opening things.
Yeah, I thought
The
that was great.
3-hour tour.
I think most people may not know, but I have been watching Discovery, but not intently. So for tonight, I actually watched it intently, and I am so impressed watching it close up on my computer monitor, seeing all the details, the music, the details, every little thing is fabulous, just fabulous. The uniforms. Is this a plot by Paramount to make cosplayers want to buy more stuff?
It's working. It's working.
Yeah, I'm thinking they're just unbelievably well made and so perfect. I noticed the music for the first time. I know you guys talk about the music, but because I'm listening on my crap speakers on my regular TV, I haven't heard it until tonight. And it's absolutely fantastic. I even wrote a note about the intro. Have you paid attention to the intro?
Oh, it's beautiful.
It's unbelievable. You have to look really close, but there's writing in the ship. The whole thing is just fabulous. I've completely changed the way I feel about Discovery after watching this episode.
Wow. And by the way, 14 minutes before the intro theme song, Discovery has the longest opens of any show. I mean, it's almost a third of the episode before they get to the song. Well, Eve England, who, by the way, looks like she's wearing it's a Chat Pack shirt. You can get that on our spring store. Ooh, very nice. A disco shirt.
And my Sisko kid mug too, my pink one.
Beautiful. That's from Abyssinian Kiosk, Cirroc's sister. Check out all those things in the description box below. Actually, Cirroc, what shirt are you wearing out of curiosity? That's a green shirt. It makes me wonder.
Oh, it's not my.
Okay. Damn it.
That's what you're. Yeah, no, I was thinking about the Jake shirt, but no, I'm saving that for another occasion. Okay.
So, Eve, you have been watching Discovery intently since the very beginning. What stood out to you in this episode?
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with Sue on this. Even though I have been watching it, I did watch it on a different monitor today, which actually did have some good speakers, and I definitely noticed a lot of detail because I was sat closer to it, I think, as well, rather than just being on the TV. But there were loads of different things in terms of the external shots were really beautiful. I really liked there was a couple of close-ups of the Discovery hull, and it was just all these, it was like a jigsaw puzzle or a patchwork quilt of different coppers and metallic colors. And I, like they said, just the level of detail that they go to in everything. I think my favorite part though, and before I go on to one of the plot points that I wanted to pick up and the link to possibly Picard, I wanted to just say how amazing the food looked on that first table scene. And they all had different meals or different snacks. And we don't often see people eating snacks, especially in formal meetings. And I just loved how that Dr. Hirai was just there munching on snacks every time we saw him. So I want to see more of him because I just want to see more of the food, more of him. He just seemed really but yeah, I just wanted to I wanted to be able to pause and sort of zoom in, and I didn't get a chance to do that. So I'm hoping they release some pictures of the food because that just looked amazing. And again, you hardly saw it. It was just the level of detail that they go to. And then when you go to the bar and, like I said, the costumes, the prison guards in the Orion camp were just amazing. And I think this episode particularly, because I think it was a bit slower in parts and a bit more driven by some of the storylines. I think you just got a bit more opportunity to notice some of this detail that sometimes just you sort of get passed by in terms of all the action and the fast pacing. It was probably a good one for you to watch, Sue, in terms of the detail, because it was a particularly good one. You know, that all of the shots were very staged, that everything's very symmetrical. It just seemed like every single aspect of it was and this is obviously the case all of the time, but it seemed particularly planned and well positioned this episode in every single scene. So you had this very symmetrical feel to the whole thing, which I thought was cool.
Yeah. I was kind of blown away when you were talking about the shots and the, you know, every scene. Like I was just really excited to see where these two are standing outside, Tarka and Book, and I'm sure it's just some place near Toronto somewhere where the locals are like, oh yeah, that's just whatever canyon. But you know, the trees look different than what we see here in the States, at least to my eyes. And, you know, it's this big open wide space and these really cool shots. And I just really, I get jealous. I'm like, man, I wish I could go there. I want to shoot something over there. It looks so cool. I don't know. Cirroc, reel us back in here. Otherwise, I'm just going to talk about trees.
Well, I'll do a little bit of reeling. For one, I feel like a lot of this show is backstory, a lot of backstory. So we get you know, action, backstory, and so they're doing a lot of like, this is what happened to me back then, and this is what happened to me, and this is what happened to me, and so, you know, it's at some point I do like to move forward with some of these things that I feel like some of these things they're stretching out for a course of a longer period than I normally would like
season
when I'm watching. Yeah, sometimes for a season. You know, like with Saru and
Tarina.
I always forget her name. She's Tarina. I want them to like get on with it already. Like, come on.
You're in a rush.
Like, how long are we gonna play this game? And like I feel like it's obvious already by now. I feel like she's made a move, he's made a move. I don't like somebody already, like both of you guys have to make a move at the same time. And
you think she made a move?
Well, she got him.
Yeah.
She got him some tea or whatever. I mean, they've both done their thing.
And the eye contact, and
too
like
slow.
the body language.
Too slow.
Yeah, the body language, the eye contact, it's been there. Like it's been there many times. Where they've been alone together, had these whispering conversations about, you know, various things, and it's clear that she's fluttering her eyes and giving him the look like, do it, and he's like,
yeah, you know how Vulcans are. Like,
I know, it's like in her own way, which I love her performance. I think she's very good at what she does. She has a grace and class to her, just her being that I think radiates through the screen. But sometimes I'm just like, all right, get on with it. Like, come on, you can't build this up for that long. We can't stretch this out for 6 episodes or 12 episodes. Like, Odo had like three flings in 2 episodes, you know.
Yeah, but it took him and Kira like 4 seasons to get together. No spoilers.
It did, but there were good reasons for it, and they had kind of more difficult conversations faster. Like like he was like, this is what I feel, or I just felt like it played out better. These things are like, there's so much of this slow drawing out of emotions and characters and whatever their thoughts are, that for me, pace wise, I do want it to speed up a little bit. Those are the things that I kind of looking for. I have no qualms about what you guys were talking about when it comes to the visual effects, when it comes to the set design. There's just nothing to really criticize there. I think it's A grade, A plus, sets. That the image behind you, Sue, how beautiful is that? The lighting, the colors, the music, the sound. We were talking about hooking it up to speakers and listening into it with surround sound. I ended up making a habit out of that because Deep Space Nine is recorded really low when I play it back from my computer. So I have to have an outsourced speaker to play it back with it and be able to hear it.
It's dark too. It's quiet and it's dark. You have to turn everything up. I got to close my blinds. I got to turn off my lights. Otherwise, I'm just like, is that Quark or Morn? I can't.
Yeah.
By the way, we did have a Lurian in the bar, and I think for the first time we saw the Lurian actually wearing a Starfleet uniform. So that means this Lurian, this Morn alien, could be Morn, I guess. We don't know how long they live. But he's in Starfleet. So that's an interesting thing. Sorry, I don't know if you were done with. Sorry, I just wanted to jump on that because that's a fun little tidbit there.
No, pretty much. I'm done with that. That's my overall thing. I was just talking about having to listen to the music with a speaker or some kind of added,
it's beautiful.
Instrument connect. So so the practice of that has allowed me to now, when I watch all of the episodes, I use the speaker. It makes for a huge difference as far as listening to the sound, listening to the music, which is fantastic in the opening credit. I think a lot of these Star Trek shows have nailed their opening credit music.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah.
That's one thing I believe that they've all stayed consistent with. And it's like, okay, we need something that's identifying. We need something that's in the vein of the Star Trek themes that we've had before. And I really love the composers that they're bringing on to put their take on those kinds of themes.
Mm-hmm. So, okay. When President Rilak invited herself onto Discovery's mission, and she told Vance, she said, "Oh, the vice president will take care of things while I'm gone," and he would look super concerned. My first thought was, okay, she gonna die. She's done. Because they set it up right there to where, like, she's like, "Oh, the VP will take care of things when I'm gone," and Vance was like, "No, don't go. We need you." And she's like, "You guys will be fine without me." It almost was like, "You guys will be fine without me." Right? Am I the only one that thinks she's going to die now?
Yeah, I thought she was going to die too, but we've still got a bit of time, I guess.
Yeah, but I thought that before, just for the record. This is the second
since episode 2.
Time. Yeah, because there was another time, right, when she invited herself on in another episode. She was like, "Yeah, I'll join the mission," or something to that degree.
Are you just hoping she dies because she was kind of stiff in the first couple episodes?
Honestly, there's something.
She was kind of rude to Michael.
I don't trust. Yeah. I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but my feelings about her are slightly leaning in the Eddington direction.
Wow. So you like her that much, huh?
Yeah, like she may have ulterior motive. There's something that I don't fully trust about her. She's shown good judgment in certain cases, so that kind of made me lower my guard. because I did see her in certain instances kind of make good decisions and kind of make rational decisions where I thought, okay, that's a smart thing to do. She's listening, she's paying attention, she's not a dictator. But then there's moments where I'm like, I don't trust her completely. I don't know what it is. I just don't 100% trust her. And maybe they'll reveal that. Hopefully I'm right and I'm just not being hard on her.
Well, something's going to happen to her. My first thought too at the beginning of the season was that she would be one of those that ends up becoming a bad guy, right? But as the season's going, it seems more like the opposite direction of it's going to be a redemption / sacrifice at the end. You know, she's going to come closer and closer and closer with Michael, and then they finally have an understanding, and then she dies. Something like that. But it could still go the other way, which is what it felt like at first, which is she goes, and I would have gotten away with it if it weren't for you meddling kids or whatever, you know, she says she's in cahoots with the 10 C's. I don't know. What do you guys think? What do you think, Eve? Is she going to die? Is she going to backstab them? Is she just going to hang out?
I don't know. I think I agree that originally I didn't trust her, but I think they have, especially in this episode, I think they definitely tried to make her a bit more personable when she was speaking to Michael. So even though it would be interesting to see her be more of an Eddington character, I don't get the same sense of that now, and I suspect she's more going to do something very brave and in a way that ends up really bringing all of the Federation together, because I think that's what we're missing at the moment as well. And I feel that I'd rather that sort of bringing of everyone together came from her rather than it coming from the Discovery crew, just to sort of give that sort of political edge. So I'm hoping that's what she does. Otherwise, it just seems a little bit, I don't know, we've already had so many twists and turns. I feel that it would be quite refreshing to have her do something more noble and show us that actually it's just that she's lived in this really tough time. So she's just been a bit guarded up until this point.
Sue agrees with you.
And I have to say also, and in addition slightly, I know it's, but I just feel like it's a little bit hard for me to believe that she would be on such a dangerous mission as well. Because like, that's like the president saying, yeah, I'll go on that bombing run with you guys. Yeah, you're going to go bomb this? Go bomb Russia? Yeah, let me jump on the bomb.
President Tarina's doing it too, yeah. They're all just saying like, all the most important people are going on the most dangerous mission right now.
Yeah. And to me, that's something you delegate to your generals, to your personnel that you have out on the field, your captains, right? Those are the people that you entrust to do things. To have them on that mission is just a little bit, it's just weird for me, because I don't see a position in any world leader of any country volunteering to be in such a dangerous position, putting themselves on the front line of something where there's potential, because the loss of that person would be more catastrophic than just the loss of the mission itself, right? Because now you lost your
right.
your president, your prime minister, whoever it is, and now you don't even have the leadership anymore. So that's why I'm kind of leaning towards what you're saying, Ryan, which is this might be her exit. You know, at some point or another, they're gonna, she's gonna be putting on a red shirt and going to visit.
Now, Eve. Okay, we've been very good and we've waited long enough, but I got to know this Discovery and Picard connection you're putting together.
Yeah, and I might be totally off here, but I just thought it was really odd that Kovic seemed to have something that was even more important than the destruction of everything by the DMA. And he had a Picard comm badge on the desk, or it looked like one.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
Did you notice that? It looked like it was and I rewound it, and it did look like it was definitely not one of the ones they all use now. And I wasn't sure whether it was just because they had different devices on the table, whether it was just an older one. But then I thought it was odd that he just decided to leave because he had something more important to do. And I wondered, it just felt like an odd thing to do, unless they're kind of setting it up for some form of, that he is going to be dealing with what we're going to be seeing in Picard with Q, etc. I don't know. I don't know. It would just make me think, oh, I wonder if there's more to that, because it just seemed like an odd choice of thing to do and say in that moment. He could have just, it's not like he is shy to just leave a meeting when he's finished, which he could have done. He sort of seemed to say, yeah, he said it was, he has other important matters. Like, well, that was doing there as well, which they said. It's like, what? So I don't know. I'm curious. I'm hoping there'd be something fun there with that, whether it's Picard or something in a past time.
See, I thought it might just be the Borg, because the DMA, those guys were mining, whatever the Omega thing or whatever. I already forgot what it was, but the thing that'd
be cool.
With the what?
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, they were mining the thing that we've only ever heard it mentioned before with regards to the Borg and the Omega particle. I don't remember exactly what it was. I'd have to look back at my older notes that I've since deleted, so I'll never look at them ever again. But I thought that might be the connection, is that they both might be dealing with the Borg, or, there's something going on there. I don't know. What do you think, Sue?
The thing when I watch Discovery now, and then we're all doing it, we're connecting it to the other Star Trek shows that are currently on, which I think, or maybe in the past were on, which we never did before. But, wondering if we're going to see something like this, or a part of this.
Yeah.
Is it going to be related to Picard? And I think that's interesting, because that's what I'm thinking. They're going to be related somehow, but I don't know how yet. But
it was just really interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of slightly unfair, because we're watching it expecting certain connections based on whatever we already know, and so we're like, oh, and they also have kind of placated to us in the way where they said, okay, this is the Spock storyline, so remember, we're going to tie that in, and so we're already kind of used to tie-ins and fit-ins. Right. So they're like, oh, here's Pike and here's this. And so
now we're just expecting more. We're like, all right, give me more, give me more.
Right. Exactly.
And it's confusing a little bit too, at least for me. It is.
Well, they started out doing that, and they're doing less of it now, because they, was the Pike and the Section 31, and they just kept bringing all these callbacks to us.
True mirror universe.
Yeah. And now it seems like, okay, they're going off on this other storyline direction, which may lead us right back to these callbacks that we've already been given, which I think the Borg is a great example of it, because that's kind of my sense too. Like, what else could this be, right? And it's and that's another part of it too. I felt like, okay, they're stretching this DMA. How long is this DMA thing? They killed it and it popped back up. And they're studying it. They don't know what it is, and I feel like those kinds of stories were told in a shorter amount of span of time in older Star Treks, right? Because I think this DMA thing probably would have been like one episode in DS9, right? Or maybe a two-parter.
Yeah, that's the deal with serialized storytelling, is they have one overarching story for 10 or 12 or 16 episodes, and then each episode kind of has its own, it's not like its own standalone episode, but each episode kind of has its own theme or its own flavor to it. Like, for example, when people look back, where the heck did Cirroc go? He'll be back. For example, when people look back at this episode, they're going to say, oh, the one where Tarka and Book go back on the planet, or they're going to say, the one where we find out what happened to Tarka's friend Oros. And then in other episodes, we're going to be like, oh, you remember the one where Tilly and the cadets go on that snow planet, right? So which episode that is, but none of the episodes, to my knowledge, there have only been 2 actual standalone episodes. Magic to Make the Sanest Man Go Mad and Pavo. I think, were the two. And I think those were probably both in the first season.
And that's another thing that I'm kind of like trying to process is how many people are coming in and out of this show. Arian,
where's Tilly?
Lieutenant Nog gone and comes back. Tilly gone. Now Bryce is leaving. I'm like, well, is anybody gonna be this is like everybody's, it's a revolving door. Like I don't understand. Like usually when you're watching these shows, it's like that's the crew, you know, and he's engineer, that's security. This is, you know, like that's science office. Like usually, and that stays intact to a large degree. And here, I've seen so many people come and go that, you know, Tarka, for example, is a bigger character than the guys who were there from the beginning, like Bryce and other people, right?
What about 10C? We don't know who 10C is yet.
Well,
I keep thinking 10cc.
Right.
Well, now speaking of Bryce too, by the way, I hope we get to see him again. But I will say this: now we know why they introduced Lieutenant Christopher. They knew, you know, Bryce was going to go, whether it's some contractual thing, and he said, you know, he can only do a few more episodes, or he's got to go. Who knows? Or whether they're just writing in that he's going to be gone for a while and come back. And they're like, okay, well, we're going to need a replacement, you know, and so we're going to have to introduce this character, a few episodes back. So it's not just like some new guy, you know. And so now we know why. It kind of reminded me of The Walking Dead for a specific reason, but that's but at least now we know. And Christopher's just taken over Bryce's spot. And, you know, hopefully we get to see more of Bryce again, though, because he's had like 15 lines in 4 seasons. Yeah.
I guess one thing that really did frustrate me with the show is, and this episode had 2 examples where you almost feel like you roll your eyes. The Bryce one was one instance. The other one was where they were all talking about where they would go if they were back on Earth. And I just sometimes feel that they just put these token little backstories to try to make you feel like you know these characters, rather than just exploring and giving those characters time to evolve and to develop those. So to me, it just didn't seem genuine or believable when Saru was saying to Bryce how much he was going to miss him, because you never really got any sense that they really knew each
like
other.
You guys never talked. You're not going to what? You're going to miss his. You're going to miss his cologne.
It's just really frustrating.
It's that one line that he says every episode.
So frustrating.
His essence. You know, that. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, we had the relationship with Tarka and his friend in prison. Mm-hmm. You know, but like I said, he was in it. He's had more lines than a lot of the regular cast, and I just want to see more of those relationships with the whole cast, because there's so many great things about the show, that the production, the music, all the things we've just talked about. But the one thing that to me is lacking is the development of the whole cast, and you just don't get.
I agree 100%.
Mm-hmm.
That's the issue that I have with this show.
And Cirroc, that's almost exactly what we were talking about last week. I think it was when Bryce and Reese got into a little squabble, and then they got beamed out, and then they just kind of helped each other up and were like, okay, no more squabble. And I'm like, we can take it. It's okay if the characters fight for more than one scene. We could take it if they don't like each other at all. We're okay. We want to see, even a fight or a disagreement or not liking each other is character development. It's still interesting. Right. We already are rooting for these characters. We already like what we know about these characters. So we want to see more, and having them, just kind of solve their little squabble so quickly. I was a little bit like, no, I want to see how this plays out. Like, let's get a little bit more. But yeah, that's something that in the first season, they didn't even get any lines at all. If you'll recall, they were just basically featured. Mm-hmm. So from that perspective, the good news is that we're getting something from these characters that for an entire season, we were just like,
actors. Yeah, they were background actors
with a name. Yeah, with a name.
Yeah, with a character name. But once again, if you want me to care about these characters, then you have to give me more to know about them. And for example, Book, when he lost his family and the little kid and, and his brother, we barely saw them, but their impact kept going, right? We kept thinking about them and mourning them, and Book kept mourning them, and they stretched that mourn and that care out. Well, I would like to have that same stretching out of feelings and character development on these other characters that now come in and out like this revolving door. Like, okay, later, Bryce. Like, later? Like, dude, I left my family and my friends and everything I know 1,000 years into the past, or whatever whatever they did. There should be a lot more to be able to talk about when it comes to those things. It should be very easy to dig. If we're going to do backstory, reflection episodes talking about, what Tarka did and what Book did and what somebody did, and everybody has their problems from what happened a long time ago. Well, wouldn't Bryce be a candidate for that? Wouldn't was it Reese?
Yeah.
Wouldn't these guys be candidates for what they've left behind, or what matters to them, or what means something to them? And the other thing is that I find it hard to believe is when Tilly, when Bryce, when they decide to leave in this place that they now are in, which they have no connections to, no relatives, no anybody. What do you do? Like, where do you, what do you do? Where do you go? If you're 1,000 years away from the time you're away from your home planet and your friends and your family, you don't know about the customs and cultures of whatever that day is.
So much has changed.
So much has changed. Like, how do you just say, all right, guys, I'm out of here. I'm just gonna go.
At the same time, you've got all that to explore now. Don't you want to know? Hey, I want to go see California. Or is it an ocean? Is it underwater? How the polar ice caps melted? What is it a desert now? I mean,
well, then show me
cool.
that. Show me that too. Like,
I would love to see that. Yeah,
that's what you want to see. Like, Bryce is like, hey man, I'm really excited to go see what Earth looks like now. I've heard it's like there's been this whole shift, and the climate's changed, and it looks like this, and I want to take a look at it. Or just show me those kinds of stories, because for me, the only family I would have is the family that I've come here with, and I would be very reluctant to leave them. Right? It's like if me and my military platoon, if we're in in the jungles of the Amazon together, I'm not going to just say, all right, guys, you guys, I'm going to go off on my own and figure out what to do. I'm pretty much going to be like, hey, let's figure this out together. Let's, help each other survive. Let's designate, responsibility to each other. But that would be more of my family than even my own family, because that's all I really know of the time and that I grew up with, and the experiences that I have a connection to.
Mm-hmm. And and you're totally, since things have changed so much over the last 1,000 years, they have given us a couple hints. Like they said that over the last 1,000 years, Wales finally won the first Six Nations championship, their first one. It's taken them almost 1,000 years, but congratulations to them.
They would have won the World Cup by that, hopefully.
They got a 1 in 6 chance every year. It took them 978 years. But just kidding. Everybody knows Eve is a huge Wales rugby fan. But to your point about the family, they do address that sometimes, and off and on, certainly with Adira and Adoa and a female Dira. They do that with Adira and Stamets and Gray and Culber. And they did that a little bit in this episode. Gray got a NAM in that case, actually. And was that the only one? Yeah, I think Gray was the only one that got a NAM. That's a non-appearance mention for everybody at home. Sue, did you enjoy the scenes in which we got caught up a little bit on Gray studying with the Guardians, I believe? Is that what it was?
I'm not sure. This is the first one that I've really paid attention. So I
right. This one was a little deeper cut.
Yeah, it was a little deeper, but I did have questions, which we've already discussed. Why the president would go on a starship, and that's a little wacky to me. But I hate to make it sound like a complaint. My issue with Discovery all along has been, in some places it moves too fast and I get confused and I forget what happened in season 1 or whatever. And I felt it on this episode that they actually slowed it down for a minute, but yet I'm missing things. And I have watched every single one up until today. I watched the one that we're talking about, but I still am confused about what's happening. I will not lie and say that I have a clue what's going on.
Eve knows what's happening.
But I know what you mean that overall, I feel it's fairly disjointed, and they have jumped around, both in time, even just the time jump, and generally jumped around. And I have to say, I think it would just be nice to. The Rillick was mentioning today, there's lots of political stuff going on, but we never see the political stuff. That's what I really want. And I think we mentioned this in previous reviews, where that would have been fascinating. We are 1,000 years in the future. Everything is completely different. We're in a completely, frontier federation, basically. And rather than always, I'm really hoping that the DMA is some sort of Borg Dominion changeling hybrid or something that we are familiar with. I'm really hoping for. Because I kind of just feel that there's always this, and I've said this a number of times, there's always an incredibly destructive force that we have, when sometimes then they don't focus as much on the politics and the smaller details. So with, for example, DS9, we had, those really sort of deep subjects and questions about various things and how people really do get on and get, and make things work and, in horrendous situations. This would have just been a perfect example of that. So I'm hoping that eventually we get back to looking at how the Federation brings everyone back together, because I just think that would be really interesting, because we haven't seen these races and all these species for 1,000 years. So yes. But I know what you mean. So it is quite disjointed in that respect. And
I don't trust any of them. Any of the characters, I all think they're up to something, or they're from another timeline or another whatever. It is a little confusing. They need to tie it up, I think.
Eve, what you were saying reminds me completely of how I felt when I was watching Enterprise. When they first introduced the show, or when they announced the show, I should say, my first thought was, this is so cool. We finally get to see the forming of the Federation. And they didn't even touch on it until the 4th and final season. And we love that stuff. That's what was so cool about Deep Space Nine, is how the races and the federations and the dominions, how all that, the politicking and the diplomacy, all that stuff is really interesting if done right. And I remember being, disappointed. I loved Enterprise, but I remember being disappointed that they didn't address the Federation. That's what I wanted to see. And yeah, when they said they're coming in the future here, and here's the new Federation now 1,000 years into the future, I want to know. I'm a nerd for that stuff. I want to know what races are still in the Federation, what happened to the races that are not. I wouldn't mind a history lesson on that. I wouldn't mind Kovic saying, have a seat. Let me tell you what happened to the Ferengi, or, and how they joined, and then they got kicked out, and then they joined again, and then they got caught gambling, or I don't know. I'd love that stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
And to add to that, and also to highlight what Eve was saying, I want to see the first contacts in 1,000 years from now. I want to see them meeting new races of people and those kinds of, deliberations and the kind of interactions and the new negotiations and maybe something else that we haven't seen kind of being thrown our way. This is a perfect opportunity for that, but I'm a little bit lost because the show has gone in so many ways. For example, even like with Michael's mom, I don't even have a clear understanding of what their relationship is really like, because it seems like they're distant from each other, but then they're close sometimes. And we went from the Red Angel suit, and we went from this little boy yelling and causing the whole universe to not have any dilithium.
Cool.
Yeah, so like I'm like, okay, so I understand some of those things and I understand where they're going, but it's so much like, I think what Sue was saying, sometimes it goes so fast and it's like a lot of stuff. You're like, whoa, okay. And then some of the things are really drawn and slow and drawn out. And even with Culber and Stamets, I don't even feel like they fully healed from their fallout. I don't see the full rebuilding of a relationship, like where the chemistry is like what it was. It still seems like a little herky-jerky between the two of them. They're not like all in fully. I feel like they're still like, it just doesn't feel like it's like what it was, and they have repaired their relationship.
If they break up, who gets the kids?
I don't know what the deal is, but to me it's like there's a lot of room for just telling the stories of these characters and making them just giving me more about each one of their lives, and I feel like I'm getting a whole lot about Book's life, right? It's like they have no problem with that, but I also want to know about other characters that I see a lot. Detmer is like an afterthought.
What about Nilsson? I don't know.
Even like I like Reno, and I barely get to see Reno enough. Like I want to know what's Reno doing when Reno's not around. Like give me some of that.
I think that was because this was shot during 2020. I think it was. Right. And Reno and I can't remember what's Reno's name in real life. I already forgot. Anyway, the actress was very trepidatious. I already forgot. Anyway, she was a little concerned about acting on set. So I believe that's why she was hardly there. At least that's what I remember hearing back in 2020, was that she really didn't want to, didn't feel comfortable going back to work. And remember, so what we're seeing here is what was shot in 2020.
During the pandemic,
before anything, before we had any shots or vaccines or anything like that.
Tignataro,
right. So, but I do remember thinking when I was watching today's episode, Cirroc, along the lines of these characters that we don't know much about. I remember thinking that, let's say 7 years or 7 seasons into this, because presumably they're going to go 7 seasons. I remember thinking today that like there's that distinct possibility that at the end of the 7 seasons, some of them are going to die, some of them are going to leave, some of them are just going to be best friends forever. Of these secondary characters like Washington, Detmer, Nilsson, Christopher now, Reese, and Linus. At the end of the season, when whatever their storyline is, even if they're just sitting on the ship and saying yes sir or whatever, we're going to look back and we're going to have a lot of memories of them, even if they're not giving us a ton per episode or per season. Even after 7 seasons, we're going to look back and we're going to be like, we're going to feel something about those characters. I mean, I know I am. I can look back and remember a few specific moments, not a ton, but after 7 seasons, I think we'll be able to, though there will be a body of work. Now, we won't know them as well as Michael or Saru, for example, or Stamets, but we'll have enough to where we'll look back at them fondly, if that makes sense. But yes, I still wish we would see more.
Why can't they do what they've done for those three characters to some of the others? I'm thinking of Prodigy, which I really like, but my favorite character is a snail or a slug or whatever.
Linus? I mean Linus?
Murphy.
Yeah.
Murphy.
Oh, in Prodigy, yeah.
Yeah. But I think the character development is better on Prodigy.
Well, the reason for that is because there are just way more characters in Discovery. So they have to pick a core 4 to really have as main type characters. There's kind of like, there's like levels, it seems like. There's Michael. Then, at least in the first 3 seasons, there was Michael, then Saru, Stamets, and Tilly, felt like. And then, then there's the rest of them, like the Booker, Culber, these other, kind of like secondary, tertiary characters. And then you have the bridge crew, which are the ones that have 1 or 2 lines or no lines or aren't even there sometimes. But that's what it is because they have a gigantic cast and they're telling a gigantic story. Whereas in like Next Generation or in the others or in Prodigy, it was, they were telling an episode was a story and it was just revolving around one person. So that's why, for better, for worse, that's the reasoning behind it, I think.
Yeah. And one other thing is, I think they have like an A story, which is like the overall story from the whole season A story. So it's not like an A story for this episode. It's like an A story, seasonal A story. And then the B stories on these shows are like a bunch of B stories. It's like Saru's B story. It's like 10 B stories and an overarching A story. And I guess that's what the format is a little bit different for me because I'm used to an A-B story in an episode with closure, wrap it up, move on to the next one, and keep it going. And this one, I'm like, I have to continue to. Because there was no wrap up in the last episode.
It's like that 6-episode Dominion arc at the beginning of the 6th season. Kind of like that, where they have to remind us this is what's been going on because it's all just one giant story that's going to come to a head very soon because the DMA and the 10C or the 10C is going to Earth right now and going to destroy Earth, Titan, and Navarre. And we only have a couple minutes left, but we also learned what's going on with Tarka. We learned who his friend was and why, and what a sad story that was, and his motivation. And then there's that, what do they call that symbol? Was this something?
God, that reminded me of Harry Potter.
What was that?
Circle and
I can't remember
the lines.
Yeah. Oh, it was like a golden something, the golden thing. It was... the golden ratio. I think it was the golden ratio.
Okay.
God, that took forever. Sorry about that. Anyway, so I do feel like a lot happened in this episode and that we're finally getting to a point now where they're setting up the final big whatever is going to happen because all the presidents are on one ship. The 10C are going for Earth, so they're setting up a climax to a season. So that's where we are. And I guess that's where we've got to leave it for now. But before we go, what do you guys say we give a very special thanks to a few people? And their names are, let me pull this up. Here it comes, fast and furious. Carmen, aka Skillet. TJ Jackson-Bey out in Missouri, Bill Victor Arucan, Homer Freezy out somewhere in New Yeezy, Yvette Blackmon, a lady by the name of Eve England, Dr. Marie Segal, Titus Mohler, Tim Baum, Darlena Marie, John Mann, Dr. Mohamed Noor, Joe Balsarotti, Tierney C. Dieckmann, Michel Melendez, Marsha Classic Schreier, Anna Post,
Classic.
Jenna Appleton, Dr. Frank Soboczenski, and Dr. Susan B. Gruner. Well, this has been a lot of fun. There's way more to talk about, but I think we're just about out of time, so we do have to run. But thank you very much.
I would like that jacket that book has on, though, right behind you. That'd be a cool jacket to wear.
I'll get Tarka's then.
I wouldn't run. That's our cosplay.
Yeah.
We found our cosplay.
I mean, his looks pretty cool to me, too. I'm down with both of those. And then Eve and Sue can like fight over like, I don't know, their pants or their gloves or something.
No, I want the
we want the jacket.
too.
No, we called the jacket, Sue. So.
I want the knitwear. The job that he just has the best knitwear book. So
who does?
Book has the best knitwear.
Yeah.
Yes,
knitwear.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Eve and Sue, for joining us. This is a lot of fun. We love having you in our free-for-alls, and it was quite the treat having you join us for this episode as well.
Thank you for staying up.
Fun. No, it's been definitely worth it.
Eve, thanks for staying up.
It's so late at night where she is right now, you guys. All right. Well, thanks very much. And everybody at home, see you next time. And always remember the 7th rule.